Hello and welcome to Vegas Aces. I'm your host, Heather Ferris, and on today's episode, I am excited to share that we have a guest with us. And William, how are you?
Hello, Heather. How are you? Pretty
Doing
good.
good. Thank you so much for joining us. If you could do us a little favor and tell people a little bit more about you.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. It's an
Mhm.
honor to be here. My name is William. I've been in the casino industry for over 13 years. I've been, I started my career in Colombia. Then I work on cruise ships, and right now I'm located in Canada.
That's
Um,
fantastic. And you said you've been doing it for 16 years?
13.
13 years. That's still a long time.
Yeah.
What games do you know?
Oh, I know most of the carnival games, UTH, four card poker, three card poker, um, Caribbean stud, all those minor games, major games. I have baccarat, craps, Texas Hold'em, roulette.
So you know a lot of them.
There is only one that I don't know, but
Which one?
I the tiles. I know
Oh,
Paiga
okay.
poker, but I don't know the tiles.
Okay. There's not that you don't see that in too many casinos. That's not a game that people typically are like, "Hey, we really need tiles."
I know. Yes, I saw it here in Canada, and there are some
Oh,
casinos that
cool.
still have it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, for today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to deal with difficult customers. And I know that a lot of people want to know how best to deal with these people because it's your job and that's customer service and it's really hard. But the thing is, this is going to be more from the standpoint of a floor supervisor. Is that correct?
Yes. So I do trainings for supervisors, table game supervisors, when they are recently promoted, and there is a transition between dealer and supervisor, table game supervisor. So I kind of teach like how to approach these situations.
Okay, cool. Well, I am really looking forward to hearing what you have to say and the tips that you give people. I also know that being a floor supervisor can be extremely difficult because not only do you have to handle customers or difficult customers, I should say, but you're in charge of everything. You are literally supposed to be doing 15 jobs at once and you're supposed to be doing them well. So
Exactly.
it's really incredible to first to have you on here to talk about this and then also do it from that point of view. So I really do appreciate that.
No, thank you. My pleasure.
Cool. So let's get started with this video, provide you guys some content. We are going to be doing 3 points in particular, and we have a presentation here that you brought with you.
Yeah.
So I think we're ready when you are.
All right. Well, there is a key for when dealing with difficult customers, and it is important to communicate to your manager any situation that arises,
Hmm.
even if it's small. We need to address it right away
Hmm.
before it becomes a big problem,
Yeah.
right? So we're going to talk about first, know your customers. The second point will be the cultural differences or different beliefs that
Mhm.
influences also in your decisions, how you run the floor and everything.
Well, I don't know. I think there's so much information in that section. We could have our own video for that.
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure.
But definitely know your customers. That's a really big one.
That's a big one.
So, William, please tell me what are some of the things that floor supervisors can do when dealing with difficult customers?
Well, first, there is something that the supervisor need to know, and One, it's that every single player is different and every single situation should be handled differently. As a floor supervisor, there are three difficult situations I identify. Like, there are three different situations that you will face. One is a conflict between team members, dispute between guests, and a conflict between guests and the casino. It is important that all the problems with players get addressed correctly. For example, I'm going to give you one example here. There are problems with the high rollers, right? So when a situation with them escalates, most of the time, and 98% of the time, um, the guest will request to talk to a manager.
Mm-hmm.
The guest won't talk to a supervisor. Why? Because there are differences, different approach. And the second one that I would say, if there is anything suspicious, you as a supervisor, you're in charge of the table game security and game protection. So you should make the necessary calls. Like I said before, it is very important and essential that the floor manager or the pit boss or the casino shift manager gets informed immediately. If the supervisor gets a communication with surveillance, for example, that should be addressed and try to be specific. I have so many problems when this kind of situation happens in the current casino I worked at. They don't give enough information. You should be able to inform date, the time, uh, what happened, and yeah, that is very important.
Sometimes they give too much information and then it's like they're saying all these details you don't need to know. They're going into all the history and specifics, and you're like, I really don't need to know this.
Exactly. And it's like 15 minutes on the phone, like saying, like these kind of details that you don't even need.
Yeah, it could
Uh,
have been shortened down to 5 minutes, dude.
exactly. And the other one, it's a conflict between the casino and the guests. So this one could be a player being rude to the staff members, to the dealer. That is super common. That is super common that the player gets angry because is losing too much, and for some reason players believe that the dealer they have a lot to do with that. Also, a player that made the wrong decision playing at the blackjack table, and players get rude to them, to the player that made the wrong decision, and also with the staff members. There are certain keys that the supervisors should be aware of when dealing with this kind of situation. Um, in terms of body language, it is important the facial expressions. Supervisors, please don't roll your eyes. Don't raise your eyebrow. Uh, you need to be very professional at the time to when you are addressing these difficult situations. Respect the personal space. Never and never point out. Like, don't point at the player's face, or
Yeah, pointing is so rude and everything.
you cannot imagine
Incredibly.
how many times I've seen.
Oh, geez, that's just so incredibly rude.
I know. But the posture and the body language is really, really important.
Mhm.
Don't cross your arms. That is a big one. That is also like a big, big, big one. And just pay close attention to what the guest is saying. And like I said, communication is the key. Inform your casino shift manager or your floor manager.
Yeah.
Yes. I also am going to talk about the voice and speaking. It is very important when you're dealing with these situations to show empathy, be sincere. Also, you need to show interest and enthusiasm. You need to
And
be, yeah,
when you show empathy and interest, it's basically words like, I hear you say this, or I see that you feel this way, or I understand, I understand how you came to that.
yeah.
It's those type of that type of wording where you want to hold space for them, and then don't discount what they're feeling or what they're going through or anything like that. Hold space, listen. A lot of times people just want to bitch, honestly.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just got to listen and be like, okay.
I'm gonna say something that I always say on my trainings, and I always, when I'm training supervisors, you need to be empathetic, and you know that the player is losing money or is frustrated. The customer had a really bad day, and now the player is here for the experience and entertainment at the end of the day, and try to forget maybe those problems during the day. Now you need to understand that, and also leave your judgment like outside. Like, there are sometimes supervisors make this mistake because it's a player, they want something and they just don't pay attention, and they don't realize that we are here and we work at the casino for them as well. It's a customer service and it's basic. So
it's it's one of those things where a player is expected to have an outward appearance at their workplace, at certain events, at family gatherings, and the casino is one of those places where they could take off that mask and kind of be rude and an ass and not have to worry about offending coworkers or family or anything else.
mhm.
And a lot of people use that as the opportunity to get some steam out.
Yes, exactly. So it's just listen and
Mhm.
understand what they're trying to say. If you cannot handle the situation, always call your manager. We are there for you, we're going to support you, and at the same time we are there to make sure there is a positive outcome, or at least a fair one. That is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also, the supervisor, they need to watch or adjust more than watch and adjust their vocabulary. It is very important, that part. One word you said, it can trigger something from that player.
Yeah, don't use the words I used and say they bitched at you, because I'm pretty sure they're going to have a problem with that.
Yeah. But no, it is important, those things also. What you don't do when speaking is like, I would say, let the frustration show. Like, for example, you're getting a lot of complaints from a customer, and it's really important that you're not there the punching bag, but you need to understand their frustration. When you speak too quickly, or in a condescending tone of voice, that is what you like. Dons, the dons.
Right. And don't take things personally, too.
Oh yeah, that is a big one. Don't take
Yeah.
things personally, because it's your job. As soon as you leave the casino, the problem was forgotten, and nothing else would happen.
Well, hopefully, fingers
I'm
crossed.
like,
I know some
yeah,
of
I'm like,
us.
no, I'm sure there are crazy stories about after your shift.
Which, if there are, put them in the comments. We want to hear about them.
Yes, please. Also, I made a list of, when setting phrases or triggers phrases. when talking to a customer when dealing this situation. So the calming phrases would be can, please, thank you, I can find out, I totally understand, let me see what I can do, here's what we can do, I can see
Yes,
why.
ma'am. I
Yes,
could see
ma'am.
why. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. No, sir. I
Yeah.
like I could see why, because then it's the whole empathy thing. I could
Yeah.
see why you're feeling that way.
Yes. No, or saying I understand your frustration. This is what we're
Hmm.
gonna do, or I can see why. Yeah, that one is a very useful one. And the trigger phrases can't. No, I cannot do that. Our policy. Sometimes you need to find a way to when saying our policies and procedures states that blah 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 blah. There is you need to be very tactful. Not my job. Definitely no. I don't know. Why don't you? Or you should have done this. Blah 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 blah. So it is very important that all supervisors. That is the conclusion. Um, it is important that all supervisors communicate in an effective manner and also remain calm, be empathetic, show interest. Yeah, and do you have any questions for me, Heather? Maybe
Is it basically like you're just basically playing therapy or therapist with the customer in a way?
that is our job. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that is, they should say that in the job descriptions.
Yeah. I know it would definitely be helpful to have a degree or two for psychology behind your
Psychology.
name to, yeah, to do this.
I know, but just remain professional.
Yeah.
That's basically everything. And but you know what, Heather, it is really important that as a floor supervisor, you know your customers.
Mm.
When you know your customers, there are some players that they come in a daily basis. They come very often, and you should observe. Sometimes I see the supervisors spending a lot of time at the terminals. It doesn't matter the system that you any casino has, but they're just in their tablets and they spend so much time when they get the player's car, which is really important. Um, they just spend a lot of time there, and that shouldn't happen. I cannot distress myself enough telling my supervisors that because you need to observe your customers. You need to get to know them. There is a lot of things that can make easier our job if you remember a lot of patterns. For example, if you remember their name, what do they like, what they don't like. Is the player a regular player? It comes like 2 3 or maybe once a month. That is important to know. Also, but that is for our next video, the cultural and different beliefs. A lot of people, they come with a lot of superstitions.
Going back to what you were saying before, I used to
Yeah.
know an old school floor supervisor where he was around in the mob days. Like that's how long he's been in the business. And what he used to do was he would carry a black book, just like the same, dating black book you would have for women or whatever. He would have a black book of all of his customers or all of his players,
Yeah.
and he would have their name, he would have their player's number, he would have like they like these kind of cigarettes, so if he's going to comp them, he knows exactly what cigarettes to comp them. It had like the likes, the dislikes, if there were problems, like, hey, watch out for this dude, that type of a thing. And everything was in the black book, and he was religious in upkeeping that, and he said it helped so much.
It does. And the reason why it's important to know this is because if a player has a pattern or has a past being rude to the staff members, so we know what to expect and we take the necessary measures for that, just in case if the player is rude once again with a team member, right?
Mhm.
So there is a lot that needs to be addressed, but supervisors, please do this. This is what I'm saying. It is really important. It is really important. Their behavior. So there are players that they are super nice and they are extremely professional. They come in suit. But once they get drunk, it's like a transformation. So it is important that you would identify all of this. What else is important? Um, the type of games they play. You need to know that. Like, it is important that if you know that this player likes baccarat, but unfortunately all the baccarat tables are busy and are full, so it is important that no, he likes to play UTH instead. So let's do the extra work. Let's call, if you're not in the same pit, just call the other supervisor, hold one spot and say like, unfortunately I don't have any spots available, but I got you one at the UTH. So it's customer service, but at the same time you need, and it's important to know this.
And isn't there some things the floor supervisors could do if they do have an intoxicated player? For example, I know one of my floor supervisors, he would pull over the cocktail waitress and he would say, hey, let's give him every other drink. Or instead of, the next drink being alcohol, let's give him coffee or something like that. So they tried to, or coffee and water. So they tried to make the person less intoxicated. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, so here in Canada, I'm gonna talk about Canada.
Oh yeah,
uh,
please do.
Here in the casinos, we need to do an assessment. So that involves security. If a player is intoxicated, and if he's heavily intoxicated, so we do the assessment with security. It would be like the floor manager, manager, casino shift manager, and security. So we ask a couple of questions, and if we determine that the player is, or the guest is intoxicated, we need to score them out. We need to make sure that they get home safely, so we can call a cab, or any reliable transportation, or make sure that they are safe. Because if something happens and they do the investigation, police and all those authorities, they get involved. We have a license that they can actually just take it away from us. Yes,
Yeah.
that is a
I know in Las Vegas it's not as strict as that. Definitely not as strict as that. I don't know if I should tell some of the stories I know.
sure. Why don't you share one?
Oh God, this was from the early 2000s. And we had a regular, and this was not right. Like what the floor supervisor did, do not do this. This is an example of what not to do.
Okay.
Um, and the guy was intoxicated and he was passed out. And my floor supervisor was like, oh, he's a regular, just play his hand for him. Like, what?
What?
Yes, like you don't do that. Like that is
No.
not okay. Uh,
No. Definitely no.
yeah.
Uh, I know one person that did exactly the same, and he actually played their hand and everything.
Mhm.
Got fire. Got fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as you should. You do not do that.
Yes. Don't get involved. So yes, I don't know if you have any questions in
um,
regards. knowing the
No,
customer?
I think I asked the questions while you were speaking, which I apologize for being rude and
No.
interrupting.
No problem, no problem. But yes, it's basically just know your customers, get to know them. That way, sometimes it will be easier for us to understand if they're complaining or they tell you something. And you, by knowing your customers, you will understand how to handle the situation, how to approach them, and how the situation will be solved if it's necessary to escalate or if you can handle that.
Well, that's all very, very great advice.
Yeah.
I am really looking forward to getting into. I hope you're okay with coming back and doing one or two more videos with us, because I am really looking forward to hearing more of what you have to say.
For sure, for sure. I am really glad that I can share with you and all of the Vegas Aces fans a little bit of my daily routines. And this is what I do, and I'm so happy to share with you.
Well, thank you so, so much for sharing. And is there a way that people can find you? Facebook, Twitter, anything like that?
It's LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yes. So
Awesome.
it is William Rojas. That sounds super Spanish. Rojas. That's my last name.
Awesome. Well, we will put a link down in the description so that way people can get a hold of you and you can make some connections to people in the industry. And
Perfect.
yeah, I am looking forward to our next video.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Heather, for the invitation. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I
Oh,
admire you
oh, thank you so
forever,
much.
forever, forever.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Thank you for being on and thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.